button because this is going to go on YouTube also that you can share around. And for anybody that's watching, thanks for joining us today. We're so excited that you're here. If you're having a problem getting in Zoom, go look in the discussion page and it's got the passcode. So we got people will be coming in as we go along. And let's see, I'll just be adding people. So my name is Keriann Tardif. I am the editor-in-chief of Gnashing Teeth Publishing, and I can't tell you how thrilled we are to have been able to work with Keriann on this amazing chapbook. The first time I read Keriann's work, she had sent in a poem for our Poem of the Day feature, and I immediately got a hold of Jennifer, who is the assistant editor, and I said, this feels like something bigger, and I have to talk to her and find out if there's a book or if there's more. And sure enough, there was. So we talked, we worked it out, fingers crossed, please, please, please. And yes, she allowed us to publish her work, and it's here, it's out in the world. And if you haven't got your copy yet, it is absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And the work inside is just as beautiful. And surprise, I have a blur on my background, but this book is typical I Decide book. We wanted to honor Keriann's work and what she's doing, and we did a sideways book so we get all of us in these beautiful haiku, and it's such a treat to have this book. And we're also joined today by the artist, the one who created this gorgeous map of places. Sorry, it's blurs with my filter, but when you get one in your hand, you'll be able to see there is the entire cover. So that's really exciting. There we go.
Much better, much better.
Absolutely gorgeous cover. So came together in just such a beautiful way. And it's just been a treat working with Keriann and working with Kaia through the whole process. And we're just thrilled. So Keriann was also found out about us through a friend of hers who's a poet, Kersten Christianson, who's with us today. And we are thrilled to have her here with us also. We're going to start out with some readings from Kersten. She's going to grace us with some of her poetry. A little bit about Kersten. She is Alaskan poet, moon gazer, raven watcher, northern trekker, teacher. Kersten Christianson derives inspiration from wild wanderings and road trips. Kersten is the poetry editor of Alaska Women Speak, and she authored Curating the House of Nostalgia and What Caught Raven's Eye and Something Yet to Be Named. She lives with her daughter in Sitka, Alaska. So there we go. I'm going to turn it over to Kersten.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And this is such an exciting thing to do for Keriann. Keriann gave me her book to read, at a couple different levels. She had submitted work to a journal that I'm a poetry editor for, Alaska Women Speak. And we were really excited to be able to do one of the preliminary runs of that poem that she sent us. And then I got the pleasure of reading her rough draft and, just along the way, just seeing how these traveling haibun took their shape. And I'm just so excited to be here. And I'm so excited to celebrate a good friend and an excellent poet and a fantastic teacher. And I miss her in Sitka every single day. So, oh man, this is exciting. So yeah, I've written for a long time. I have a few books out. The last one that I've published is titled Curating the House of Nostalgia. It's this one actually by Sheila Nagig. And And so I thought I'd share a couple poems from that, and we'll go from there. So let me pop on some readers so I can actually read what I'm finding here. I write a lot about road tripping, and so I'll start with one. It's titled Cassiar, and if you don't know the Cassiar Highway, just kind of it's on the BC side, and it travels from the Yukon down through northern BC. Pretty remote highway, 2-lane road. Cassiar. When driving the Alaska Highway, it is reliable advice to don a watch. Tundra, taiga, boreal forest won't carry a Wi-Fi signal. And anyway, your smartphone's battery will wither after 2.5 days driving wilderness roads. And really, it won't matter. Your eyes now scan for black bears grazing dandelions, she-fox carrying her kit alongside a remote stretch of trenched blacktop. Jade in the mountains, in the lakes, named and not. You imagine humdrum internet still 2 days out, scrolling updates at Tim Hortons over a double-double and a box of Timbits. But this won't matter, really. Your mind blown like strips of tire in the shoulder, still hazed by wind and solitude. So definitely in the zone of travel there. The second one is called, it's for my friend Karen. It's called Men Who Serve You Coffee. Steamy, like men who wake before the body gaze of day, to capture water before boil, flood the press, clatter around your kitchen barefooted, beaned. French roast, Yukon chaga, simple Folgers of little matter, but served in bed. Swarthy like Pasilla Mariana, heady boreal, you walk among the seed and layers of rafters, skiers, smooth talkers, loggers. Coffee, a story, a heart lost to a longshoreman, chance encounters with international politicos who confirm your beauty, offer refugee status should you one day cross that border between what is and could be. To the plangency of beat-skipping bar tunes, two-stepping wildly with lanky fathers, sons, your own wild spirit cupped in the nest of your palm, wrapping your hands around a hot mug in the morning. And the last one I thought I'd share is called Curate. It's titled Curate. Actually, it's the first poem in the collection, and it's a haibun. So, Curate. In the shadow of the Kluane squats the house of nostalgia, its portals shuttered with plywood eyelids, tangled weeds its lashes, hookers, oatgrass, sedge, foxtail. I have heard it hoards toy trains standing still, hockey pucks without a match, driftwood shaped like an unruly midwife, birthing long silenced boat motors, salt air crusted license plates, Yukon, Alaska, Germany. From a high shelf watches the gossamer skull of a horse recovered from the Dalton Trail, its halves stitched whole with the hair of a wild Russian boar. Shadows of meteoric leaves, slivers of sun flicker jig in the wind, slink through the cracks to burnish cobwebs, dust, errant cottonwood seeds drifting from head to heart. This could be the home of the 50,000-year-old wolf pup gleaned from permafrost near Dawson City by a miner toiling under high summer sun. Her skin a tight drum measuring the backhanded beating of time, her lashes a reluctant wonder along her cheek. Slivers of sun ignite darkness, spotlight the minions that parade my own needled nostalgia. The past, a violent green swallow at midnight in June. In winter, I once held another's hand here whispering, listen. Listen to the absence of sound, the sound of stars. We belong here. Buddha says something like this, love much, live gently, know when to let go. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, wow. There you say so much with so little, and that last poem just blew me away. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, thank you for letting me.
be sure to drop a link in the chat where people can purchase your books. So we really people want to get a hold of that, you can get it. So, and now I noticed we've got a couple of Gnashing Teeth Publishing authors in the room with us. Hi, Les. He's got a book coming up next month, the Sleep Cinematic or a Gollum Quartet. And be sure you get your pre-order in. This book is it's something completely different. It's unexpected. It's fun. It's also a modern day fable, I guess you could call it. It's a journey. So you're definitely gonna want to pick that up. Les, good to see you. We also have Joshua Bridgewater Hamilton in today. I see Joshua. He has Rain Minnows. I don't know if you got a copy of it handy. I just had to order some Rain Minnows, Joshua, because I just sold the last one this week. So
fabulous. I'm sorry I don't have a copy
more.
with me, but that's wonderful. Thank you.
So if you haven't picked up Rain Minnows, it's a beautiful little, I call it a gift. It is a gift of poetry. Joshua has a way of saying so much with so little. So thanks for coming, Joshua. Good to see you. And you can get that on our Gnashing Teeth Publishing website. It just give me a couple of weeks to get books in, but go ahead and order it anyway. And now I'm going to introduce Keriann. I am so honored to have this book as part of our lineup. I'm going to read her bio real quick. Keriann Gilson is a fourth-generation Alaskan living out her dream teaching high school students. She holds a master's in secondary education from UAF and a master's in creative writing with an emphasis in poetry from UAA. Keriann had her first poem published in the winter of 2019-2020 edition of Alaska Women Speak. Her MFA manuscript with the first drafts of the poems in this chapbook, Wenger Award for Excellence in Creative Writing. This is her first chapbook to be published, and she's completely overjoyed. She currently teaches 10th and 12th grade English theater in her hometown of Valdez. And I got to tell you, y'all, the people that we sent this to get a couple of blurbs. I mean, the advanced praise is beautiful. So I want to read a couple of these that what other people had to say about Keriann's book. So don't just listen to me. I mean, other people have said nice things too. Gilson's poignant chapbook narrates some of a relationship. Playing with the Haibun form, the poet takes her readers on a journey that stretches from Alaska to Greece and places in between. As the speaker remembers these locations refracted through their emotional memories. Humorous and haunting, these poems show us how, in spite of our best intentions, we can sometimes arrive at the water's edge. And that was from Ray Ball, who's associate professor, UAA, and author of, I do not know how to pronounce it, or Lorarium. Sorry, but you can find it on our website. So, Joe Reyes Boytel, the author of Mouth, had this to say: here we are, so clearly in the mind of someone who is love, complicated and compelling, despite and because of the physical and emotions. Keriann takes us through lyrics, retellings, and rationalizations, and we are there with her, recalling our own moments of silence within our own intimacies. And so, and then Kersten also gave a lovely, lovely blurb. I'm going to pop that one out quick, and then we'll get to Keriann, I promise. In Places I Never Want to See Again, poet Keriann Gilson places Haibun again on the roadmap. The poems here are part rambling road jaunts and parceled love, ache, and disappointment. Both excitement and sheer tension engage in tug-of-war love as relationships kindle, inch forward, start anew, and erode over blueberry pancakes, marshmallows burnt over campfire, finding warmth in frigid winter tents while kayaking with orcas. These poems delight in strife and thrum with passion. Keriann, I'm turning it over to you.
All right, thank you, Karen. And thank you, Kurt, for your wonderful reading. I don't know if anyone knows this, but Kurt was the one who actually got me into the creative writing, well, didn't get me into it, but told me about it and pushed me to apply for it, which then, you know, started this entire thing. So I really owe so much to Kurt, so much. And I wish I was still teaching with her, but it happens. So I guess I kind of wanted to start out with just a tiny little bit of my inspiration for this. So I love music, as evident by all of the references to songs and how important music is to the first person speaker and this unnamed second person in these narrative poems. And I kept thinking about all of the songs that I can't listen to anymore because of who they remind me of. Old friends, lovers, crushes, family members, etc. And then that got me thinking about all of the different places that people can't go to because of their memories. So I started thinking, I started making a list of places that were important to me based on that criteria. And then I thought about how they can be connected without overwhelming my reader with the whys, I suppose. So these memories and places were used as a springboard for these poems. So the concept is kind of from a truth, but the poems themselves are fairly fictional, especially in the timeline. But I have 4 poems that I'm going to share with you. I tried to make it like a varied different styles. I fell in love with the haiboon and prose poetry forms while I was getting my master's in creative writing. And there's just something that's so comforting and familiar about paragraphs that I just couldn't escape from, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And then when you combine the comforting and familiar form with the language of poetry, to me, it just becomes pure magic. There's this really interesting David Young quote where he describes prose poetry, and I'm paraphrasing, so I might get this wrong, but he's describing it as life histories reduced to paragraphs, essays the size of postcards, maps on postage stamps. And that description just kind of opened my mind to all of the different possibilities I didn't see before in writing. And it was just like this light bulb kind of went off in my head saying, there you are. I was waiting for you to finally get here. So it's not a necessarily strict form that I'm using. It kind of goes back and forth from the haiboon, which is prose poetry with a haiku, to just lineated poetry, to a combination. And if things are going well in the poems in between these two people, the reader will see these long paragraphs and these beautiful haikus at the end. And then when that's not going so well for them, you see it breaking more, like the in Jambit is more, the line breaks are more, just to show this breaking of this relationship. So it's as much of a visual representation of a relationship as it is the story of one. That was a long introduction, I'm sorry. But anyway, I'm going to read 4 poems. The first one is the second poem in the chapbook called Camping in 30 Below. Clear sky signals mercury drop. Our defective portable tent heater useless in the corner, my body shivering under 5 layers of misery, sweaty legs stiff in their cocoon of down and synthetic insulation, cheeks pink from exposure, a constant sniffle, unbearable. I am not made for this weather. Instead of recreating our first date playing glow-in-the-dark miniature golf, we drive 20 miles from our warm dorm rooms and hike half a mile, my feet sinking despite being tied to snowshoes, carrying camping supplies strapped to our backs. At one point, we stopped overlooking a small frozen lake to watch a moose trek across. If my hands hadn't been so cold, I would have captured that moment and added it to the winter collage covering the sterile white of my walls. I am not made for this weather. Instead, you teach me how to set up a tent, though I complain the whole time, my numb hands trying to work the knots and set the stakes free while you pack down the snow of our campsite. We make a good team despite my chattering teeth and your huffing breath. -30, but the slight breeze makes it feel colder, and I am reminded again that I am not made for this weather. Instead, you remind me that cold weather cuddling is the best. If it weren't for the broken heater and your own cold skin, I might have believed you. But I do believe your chaste, chapped lip apology and shuddering hiss as my numb hands find the warm skin of your belly. That is until I realize I will have to pee off my layers to pee at some point, and I vow to save my cold toes for when you least expect them. I am not made for this weather, but I enjoy being with you more. This second one is a little bit in the middle, early middle, and it's based on those shades of green. And it's called, so each of the numbers that I say at the beginning of each of these little poems is a shade of green. Where green was seen on all we loved. Number 4C BB17. My love, the river runs, the beer pours, the corned hash gravy drizzles, the hazel of your eyes is brighter amidst shamrocks and feather boas. I seem to have forgotten the color of today, but the pinches you have given won't brighten for several days now. Number ACE 1AF. In my fantasy, you are Patrick Swayze. Instead of molding clay, you mold my hair, parting it with the back of your thumb, breathing cool air against my neck, pulling until the tension from being hunched over another failed hobby is gone. Later, you will save the lump of ruined would-be vase and glaze it in celadon light. You will put it on my desk with a single sunflower, its light petals dropping one at a time as we shake the desk. In those moments, I promise I am not picturing you as Patrick Swayze. On days your father calls your silence guilt and your mother cries on the phone, I will fill them with calla lilies next to speakers singing, two-headed boy, all you did will wait until the point when you let go. Number D0F0C0. Cold sips, bitter. I've left my tea to steep too long. It's the last tea bag. So I pretend it's okay. Cold sips, bitter. You've had so much coffee. Your leg bounces the chess pieces, deciding your next move carefully. Cold sips, bitter. I wonder if I lost interest in this game because you take too long or because you've never noticed the ways my eyes plead. Number 74B72E. In September, your cousin cultivates crisp Comey's pears in neat rows. We will can them into sauce, candied sweets, fritter filling, jams and jellies to go with toast that always burns. My favorite is pear rougalash with honey. Its ivory fine-grained flesh blends neatly together over ice cream. It's autumn, and they blush from our basket, watching your hand descend lower as I reach for higher, sweeter fruits. Your fingers bruise my skin as much as they do the pear's flesh. We are both fragile. This is your favorite time of year, pulling up my shirt on days where the air almost hurts, as satisfying as biting into the first pear of the season. I'm gonna skip to the last one. So this one is a couple poems before the end, and it's written in a very different way. It's kind of combining playwright and poem together. So it's kind of like setting up a scene. And so it's in brackets a lot. So in brackets, unshared. Scene, second level apartment, bags waiting at the door to be taken, faded outline where fairy lights once hung, dirt still unswept. Perhaps a stray leaf or whole limb fallen. You are not there when we say goodbye. I imagine what you would have said, where you would have stood, there, where I once spilled wine on your crotch. You laughed then when I said that it looked like urine. Am I supposed to be the one laughing now? How empty my glass is? It's okay. You would have stood there anyway. At Rise, you would have worn a sweater. It's winter, but you've packed all of your scarves, save for the forest green one your grandmother knit. That one I keep for myself. I wonder if you will miss it. I don't want you to start with an apology. I won't end with one. Fair? You. I have decided the sweater is your favorite gray from before we met, the one with the hole in the left sleeve, a perfect fit for your thumb. You. You look too happy. Should you be sad? Or is this a happy moment for us both? You. No, I think your stuff wouldn't be in this room still. You only waited for me to converse like we used to, no fancy gimmicks or games, no shouldering blame, no saying if we feel hurt by things we are now too numb to even notice. You, open mouth, close mouth, open mouth, close mouth, and once again. Lights fade, and I can't imagine a single word, grateful for silence. And that's it. That's all I have.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So if you haven't got your copy yet, please visit our website and pick up your copy. You're absolutely, you're going to come back to it again and again. I'm going to unblur my background so I can show you places.
And I absolutely adore that cover, and Kaia did such an incredible job with it. I'm honestly blown away, and I would love to hear a little bit from her about her process, because I know she read the poems and then she kind of like started with something, and I really want to know what her process was, Kaia.
Thank you, Kaia, for coming today.
Of course. This is my first book cover. So I was so nervous, so incredibly nervous. And Keriann gave me the concept of a map. She was like, I really think a map would just best, I don't know, describe what is going on in the story. And it's true, because once I read it, I was like, this is all over the place, which makes sense. And I need to like find a way to show that. And so this is also my first time like digitally like creating art. I've never had to do that before. And it was so cool. I fell in love with the process like along the way. And I loved the book, and I was so happy I was like creating art for it. I was like, it's still a shock to me, and I'm so excited, and I'm so happy you love it. I'm happy everyone loves it. But yeah, thank you so much again. Like, it's seriously one of the highlights of the year for sure.
And I'm so grateful that you decided to do it. And Kaia is actually one of my previous students in Sitka. So it just really fit really well. I'm like, I really want it to be someone who's close to me, who knows me. And Kaia and I had a really good student teacher relationship in Sitka. She was constantly in my classroom. My last year there, it was hilarious. She would always like send me little poems on my door if I wasn't there during my prep. She's like, where are you? And so it just fit really, really well. And Kaia, you also got a really big news after this from Keriann, right?
Oh, yeah. So now I'm fully a part of the Gnashing Teeth team. So from now on, I'm going to be scouting out artists and hopefully doing some really cool covers in the future. I'm so excited. It's kind of like a little dream position, but you know, it's super cool. I'm so excited.
Congratulations.
So yes, and we got Kersten to thank for telling us about Keriann. Keriann, thank you for letting us know about Kaia. And Kaia, welcome to the Gnashing Teeth family.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be part of it.
Just going through the process with Kaia and the way that she understood the poetry made such a difference in how she approached the artwork, you know, from an outside in. You know, we've worked with different artists for covers, and I think background with knowing poetry and understanding it really made a huge difference, and it's making a huge difference going forward, because we have a lot of exciting things that are coming this year, and Kaia is a big part of that, and we're super, super excited. So okay, I'll be now, and I'm going to open it up to see if we have any questions. And I just peeped over at our Facebook, and we've got some people watching in there. Let's see, Charles Bingham says, go Kaia from Sitka, Alaska. And I see Kersten on here from Sitka too. I don't know if y'all know Charles. He says, he as the admin for Alaska Books and Authors Group, feel free to come in there and promo your books. So definitely get Tom Murphy says greetings and congratulations on the book. Chris Pakkanen, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It says lots of applause. Keriann Gilson listening from Tucson. So then I'm going to open up the floor for a little Q&A. Anybody for Kersten, for Keriann, for Kaia. We'd love to tell you anything you want to know. You can just type it in the come on, or type it if you're on Facebook Live. Type it in there. Anybody? Okay. Josh just says, how far back do the poems go in this book? So Keriann, that's for you. As in, how long have you been working on them?
So I first started working on these during my master's program. So it's been a couple of years since I started it. I had a really, really rough concept before I discovered the Haibun form. And then after I, discovered the Haibun form, thanks to a fellow Alaskan poet, Nicole Stellan O'Donnell, not really Haibun, but more prose poetry. And then Dana Levin, who came up to do a reading for us and a talk during the in-person part of our master's program, whatever it's called, MFA. And so both of them kind of opened the door for prose poetry. So then I took those poems that I had kind of had an idea for with this Places I Never Want to See Again, and I made them much better, because before, oh my gosh, it was so funny. I was rereading them and I'm looking at them, I'm like, oh my God, those are terrible. And then to see how far they've come with the form, because once I found that form, oh my gosh, it was incredible. And so I guess that how far back the poems go, at least a few years, probably my first year in the program. So 2019, I want to say, maybe 2018, something like that. And yeah, so a few years been working on those, and then just editing. And I really hate going back and rereading poems that have already been published, because then I'm like, oh, I could make this so much better already. So I'm already like looking at them again. I'm like, I want to change this, this, and this. And I'm like, dang it. So that's kind of my process of like constantly, nothing is ever going to be completely 100% done for me. Jen, I was wondering, how do you deal with the emotions associated with this project? Oof, that's a loaded question. So it does bring up a lot, especially when I was looking at the songs in some of these poems and how emotional they do get, because you don't really realize how much a song or a person has impacted you until you try to write about it. And so when I was writing some of these poems came very, very easily and made me laugh, and, just a little bit of reminiscing about what happened. Some of the poems were a lot harder to read, especially the ones towards the end where the relationship is ending, the friendships are ending, the people are not in your life anymore. So really it was just taking a lot of time to process. I don't really have many self-care rituals. Do you sort of wallow in it for the work? Yeah, I would say that describes me a little bit more, wallowing in it. Taking breaks when I need it, really. Like there are times where I'll write part of a poem and I'll have to rewrite it because it's not the same. And the emotion isn't the same, or a poem is way too emotional. I'm like, oh dear God, I cannot publish this. And so I have to rewrite it with a different mindset. And so that's kind of how it is. How do you balance the chaos of a teaching life with your writing life? Has teaching impacted what you write? So, that's a great question, Les. So when I first started teaching one of the classes I was teaching in Sitka was my first teaching job with Kurt. And I got to teach creative writing. And I hadn't really written much poetry in the last few years. Poetry and I kind of had a bit of a falling out. I wasn't super into it. I couldn't really connect to it. And it was actually reading my students' poetry that really pushed me back into writing. It made me fall back in love with writing. Reading not just the poetry, but reading other students' work. Kaia has had this beautiful play she was writing that I really, really loved. And so that kind of also helped boost me into writing. And then Kurt kept pushing me like, hey, you should join this program. I think you would really enjoy it. And so I did, and I got in, and then it was just a whirlwind of, oh my God, what have I done? And then I had to get a new job because of budget cuts, which happens. And so then my first year in the program was also my first year teaching in Kenai. that was a lot. And so just trying to balance that was, it was crazy. It basically is how it boils down to. But then the last few years, once I kind of hit a rhythm with the work and hit a rhythm with balancing the teaching life, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like teaching is something that I've always wanted to do. Writing is something that I can do with teaching. And so it just kind of marries each other very, very well. And even now I'm teaching creative writing again. I'm reading all of my students' poetry and their other writing, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I just introduced high boons to them this past week, and I'm adoring reading their stumble throughs, and it's just wonderful. Thanks, Les. That was a good question.
So I have a question for Kersten. Who else is hiding out in Alaska that you haven't told us about?
Oh my goodness. Tom Bacon is an amazing writer from here in Sitka. And so he's one to watch for, I think. I have a manuscript of his on my desk that I've been reading lately. So it's pretty fantastic.
I also have one to plug. Erin
Yes.
Hollowell. She was one of my
Yes.
mentors in the program. Oh my God, everything she writes is fire. It is incredible. And she wrote Every Atom and what was the one before that?
I think it's Pause Traveler.
Pause Traveler, yeah.
Yes, both fantastic. And she has a book coming out in a year or two, I think, from Salmon Publishing in Ireland.
It sounds familiar, yeah. That one.
Yeah.
Well, feel free to drop any links if you know of any.
Yeah, and then also the person I mentioned before, Nicole Stellan O'Donnell, You Are No Longer in Trouble, was, I can't read this book in public because I will sob. That's how beautiful it is. And it's all about teaching and her, oh, it's just beautiful. She also wrote an historical fiction collection of poems called Steam Laundry. Absolutely also gorgeous, beautiful. Anything she writes is gold.
Oh, great. Well, did anybody else have any questions? If not, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And I want to encourage you again, go to gnashingteethpublishing.com. Check out all of our authors. I absolutely don't publish something if I don't love it. I'm going to tell you right now, because I can do that because I'm the boss. So I'm really excited. I mailed out tons of Keriann's books on Tuesday. So if you haven't gotten yours yet, it's coming in the mail. And definitely, please feel free to share, write a review. We love Goodreads reviews. We love Amazon reviews. It really helps our authors and our budget, get recognized and get their work out there. And I bet Keriann would love to read for your group if you're in Alaska. Yeah. So keep her in mind. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for coming today. And if you have a friend that you want to check this out, we'll be uploading this video to YouTube a little bit later today. So
thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
thank
Keriann.
you all for coming.
Thanks, Keriann.
Thank you for sharing, guys. That was awesome.
That's fantastic. A book is born. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Stop.